spine-tingling, goosebumps magical moment of music. Welcome to Electric Enthusiasm, the podcast where we celebrate unironic enthusiasm. I am self-proclaimed Hamiltrash.
And I have been bitter about today's topic for years.
Bitter? Why?
I'm gonna explain why. We'll circle back to that.
Ooh, this is a challenge now.
Yes.
Tasty. So, Alex, tell us how this works.
In each episode, one of us presents a topic that they're super enthusiastic about and does their level best to spread that enthusiasm to the other host and to you, the listener. Of course, sometimes we have enthusiastic guests on who are super excited about something we don't know anything about.
We also have the moment of meta, where we get enthusiastic about enthusiasm and talk a little bit about why enthusiasm matters and how you can live a more enthusiastic life. I don't know. I'm very excited today. I don't know if you realize. I'm really excited.
You went full dramatic sportscaster or something on that one.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Because we think the world needs more enthusiasm, and you can share yours with us on our website, electricenthusiasm.com, or our Instagram, @electricenthusiasm. Tell us what you're excited about these days. You could even send us an email at hello@electricenthusiasm.com. Okay, Katie, why are you so excited? What are we talking about today?
Because we're talking about something that I know way too much information about and I've been excited about for a very long time. Hamilton, the musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda. So, Alex, what do you know about Hamilton?
I know two things about it.
Okay.
So I know it's a musical.
Yes.
Yes,
Correct.
but I have never seen it.
Okay.
But back when it came out, I traveled to New York at least once or twice a year, right? And every time I was like, this Hamilton thing sounds amazing. I should get tickets and go see it.
No.
And that was freaking impossible. Unless you could book your tickets like half a year or a year in advance, there was no way you were getting in.
Yep.
So yes, it's a musical. I've never seen it. I'm still bitter about it. God damn it.
That tracks. I can understand why you'd be bitter about Hamilton. Luckily, there's this wonderful thing of modern technology called a video recording device now. I don't know if you've heard of it. And in fact, they've recorded it with the original Broadway cast. So everyone can see Hamilton now, and you don't need a ticket. Although, hot take, I think there are better Hamiltons out there than Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I think that is the hottest hot take I have. And anyone listening might come for me for that. But he's not a very good singer. I think there are better singers in the world. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
Excellent. Drama. I like it. Yeah. So, Katie, Hamilton, what should a person know? We like to start with the facts first around here.
Yes, we do. As you know, it is created by Lin-Manuel Miranda, somebody we do love on this podcast. We love Encanto. I'm assuming you've seen Moana as well?
I have. Yeah.
He also wrote music in Moana. So, we like his music in this podcast. I thought this would be an easy sell, but apparently there's some bitter feelings here.
Yeah. Also, thanks to your foisting Encanto on us, I still have those songs stuck in my head.
It's okay. I'll replace them with Hamilton.
Yeah. The man writes a good song. I'll give him that.
does.
He knows what he's doing.
It took him a couple years to write the musical. So he first presented the Hamilton mixtapes publicly at the White House Poetry Jam in 2009, but it finally opened on Broadway in 2015. And in 2016, it was awarded 6 Tony Awards. 6!
Whoa.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I read that wrong. 16!
That's basically all the Tonys.
Essentially. It was a new record, and it won 11 of those awards, including Best Music. Since then, it has made many other top awards, including the 2016 Grammy Award for Best Musical Theater and the 2016 Pulitzer Prize for Drama. So much critical acclaim. So it came about when the creator Miranda was on vacation in Mexico, and he read a biography about Hamilton and thought, hot damn, this dude is amazing. I've got a quote that he said to Vogue, what his thoughts were about the Hamilton story when he first read it.
I was like, this is an album. No, this is a show. How has no one done this? It was the fact that Hamilton wrote his way off the island where he grew up. That's the hip-hop narrative. So I Googled Alexander Hamilton hip-hop musical and totally expected to see that someone had already written it, but no. So I got to work. It's such an obvious idea. How has nobody ever written a hip hop musical about Alexander Hamilton? Like,
So that is the basis of the show. It started in Broadway. It's now in a bunch of different countries, including the London West End and Canada, and there's an Australian tour as well. It's pretty international. It's one of the biggest musical success stories of modern day musical theater, and it's created a resurgence in the theater, and people are much more excited to go to it. When it opened in Canada, the theater who opened the show said that they have had blockbuster musicals at that theater before, but had never seen a demand like this. The demand for tickets was 10 times the amount for any other musical they'd ever have, like from Mamma Mia to Lion King to anything else. Nothing met the amount of fervor people want for tickets to this show.
And that's why I'm still bitter.
Yep.
Why are we talking about Hamilton today?
I love musical theater. I'm a musical theater gay. I was raised on it. My parents would take me to every single musical tour that came through Hong Kong. Love me some storytelling through song. An argument in song is, in my opinion, the greatest form of argument. The confrontation song still stands as one of my all-time favorite numbers ever writ. Anyway,
I'm a huge musical fan as well.
yes. What's your favorite musical?
Oh man, that's hard. I love Avenue Q.
I also love Avenue Q.
Yeah, for those who have not seen it, it's kind of like Sesame Street because it's puppet singing, but
Yeah.
it's not for kids
No,
at
no, no, no,
all.
no.
There's a song called "You Can Be as Loud as the Hell You Want When You're Making Love."
And it implies that she puts her finger up his butt. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. Don't put your finger there. Oh, put your finger there. I think that's fantastic. I love Book of Mormon.
Ah,
Uh,
okay, you
by the yeah,
like the modern comedy musical by the sounds of
those are amazing. But
okay.
old school class or a little older, Chess, I think is
Oh,
fantastic.
wow. Deep
Yeah,
cut.
and the songs in Chess are amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright, okay, I'm feeling a bit more confident about my chances now of convincing you on this.
Yeah, well, no, I'm very open to musicals. I love musicals. And Chess, of course, was written by the 2 guys from ABBA, Björn and Benny.
Yeah. How do you feel about Mamma Mia?
I mean, it's great, but it's the ABBA songs all over again.
Mm,
I do enjoy that kind of musical. I've also seen We Will Rock You, which is the Queen song, saw
I think
that in
that
West
one's a
End in
lot
London.
better. Yeah.
Way better story,
Yeah.
and way better song? I don't know.
I agree.
I do prefer, like, an original
Yeah.
musical where they actually wrote new songs instead of just rehashing some band's catalog.
If you're curious, that type of musical where they're rehashing is called a jukebox musical. That's the official term
Okay,
for it.
did not know that.
Anyways, when Hamilton first came out, I listened to the music and I was super overwhelmed. It's a lot. And I didn't really connect with it until a bunch of my friends were obsessed with Hamilton. And they would sing, I'm not throwing away my shot, every opportunity they got. And I have very vivid memories of sitting in the backseat of the car, driving from one location to another, 3 hours through the French countryside over mountains with these beautiful, staggering views. And the only thing that I like remember is the two of them belting along to You'll Be Back, full of joy and passion and fervor. And as we have noted on this podcast, enthusiasm is infectious.
And there's an example in action. I love it.
So that September, so this is September 2019, right before I left London, my parents came out to visit. And this is very exciting news because every time my parents came to visit me in London, we would go to see a show in the West End, right? And also, I couldn't afford Hamilton tickets at the time. And I was like, my parents have more money than I do. We're going to go see Hamilton. And this is where I think I'm slightly different from the average human person. So I think the normal person, oh, I'm gonna go see Hamilton. Awesome, cool. And then they'll just go see Hamilton. I had some time where I knew I was gonna go see Hamilton. So I started studying. I learned all of the songs by heart. I looked up the lyrics. I looked into the actual debated history of Hamilton's life. I wanted to go in so prepared that I knew everything that was going to happen so I could focus on the costuming, the staging, and the dancing and not understanding the insanely fast lyrics. But also, I'm like a massive nerd, weirdo, freak creature. So, of course, that was my response.
Oh, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
diving in a little too deep maybe on a topic you're
Oh,
enthusiastic about. Is that something you do often,
and
Katie, at
before
all?
seeing the show as well. This is pre-show. So
Wow.
and to say my enthusiasm for the musical ended that night is simplistic and dumb. Clearly, it only fueled the fire, and I'm still obsessed to this day. I cannot count the hours I have put into learning how to rap fast enough so I can sing along to some of the faster songs in the musical, like Guns and Ships, because I am that weirdo.
Oh, the hard life of the enthusiast, right?
It's so terrible. Like,
Yes, yes. I love it.
so, I'm gonna break this down into 3 things that I really wanna talk about with you. First thing is obviously the music and
Mhm,
lyrics.
mhm.
Secondly is the casting and the interesting aspect they've done with the casting. And finally is a meta commentary on the story of Hamilton and the way in which it recontextualizes history, and it's something that I think is very interesting about the musical as a whole and not necessarily about what's happening in the musical, if that makes sense.
Ooh, excellent. Very interesting.
Mhm. Step 1, music and lyrics. This musical is sung through, which means that there's
Mhm,
no dialogue. I think there's like 2 or 3 lines and a scream. That's pretty much it. Everything else is sung. It's like Les Miserables.
got
Um,
it.
and I found this really hilarious article from this website called 538. Have you heard of them?
Mhm. Oh, yeah, I obsessively follow 538 for their, sports content and their political content.
Can you explain to our listeners who might not know what is 538?
So 538 is a website for statistics nerds
Mhm.
started by Nate Silver,
Yes.
who had some success predicting political elections in the US, including the presidential election, but also applies the same stat skills to sports. So they will try to predict who will win the NBA or the NHL or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. They like stats, they like numbers. So they did analysis of word count on a bunch of different musicals to look at how Hamilton compares.
Of
Because of
course
course
they
they did.
did.
So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you 3 examples of words
Mhm.
per minute and total words of 3 different musicals. And from that, I would like you to try and guess how many words per minute is in Hamilton.
Got it. Hit me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Pirates of Penzance, like a classic
Mhm.
modern operetta, has 58 words per minute with a total of
Mhm.
5,962.
Mhm.
Phantom of the Opera, 77 words per minute with a
Mhm.
total of 4,709 words.
Mhm.
Roger and Hammerstein's Oklahoma, the first arguably modern musical, 59 words per minute at 4,303 words. Can you try and guess Hamilton's words per minute and total amount of words?
Okay, so the other guys are like 58, 77, and 59
Yeah.
words per minute.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna guess this is obviously higher because they're rapping and you said they're fast. So like 100 maybe?
Okay. And you want to guess total word count?
Total word count for 4,000 or 6,000. So maybe, I don't know, 10,000? Yeah, I'm gonna go with 110,000.
You weren't too far off. I mean,
Okay.
you're not too far off on the first metric. It is 144 words per minute.
That's still that's still about 3 times as much as the average as your average musical.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And the
Wow.
total word count is 20,520 words.
Holy shit. That's a lot of words.
It's a lot. It's a very dense musical. And
Wow.
just to give you a little bit of flavor, a little taste, I'm
Mhm.
going to show you a clip from the recording. This is from the song Guns and Ships.
Mhm.
Narrative wise, don't worry about it. But you are going to hear the fastest verse, the fastest song in the musical.
Right.
And the singer is David Diggs.
I'm taking this horse by the reins, making red coats weather with blood stains. And I'm never gonna stop until I make them drop, I burn them up and scatter the remains down. Watch me engaging them, escaping them, and raising them out. I go to France for more fun. I come back with more guns.
Yeah, that is fast.
So this performer, David Diggs, is actually an improv rapper. He had never done musical theater in his life until he was approached to do Hamilton, and he was like, "The fuck is musical theater? Don't know how to dance, don't know how to be on stage, but I'm gonna learn everything to be part of this fucking show because it's cool."
Whoa, that's amazing.
So, Hamilton is written very densely. There's a lot going on lyrically. This is why I studied. I needed to do my homework.
Yeah, because there's so much going on. I didn't
Mhm.
catch very much of that, to be honest.
Yep.
There's a lot being thrown at you.
A lot of people say you need to see Hamilton a couple times to understand it. I've seen it a bunch now. Every time I watch it, I notice something different, and that's really exciting. That's one of the things I
Yeah.
love about it because there's so many layers of meaning in the writing and the wordplay. There's like really complex rhyme schemes. It makes it really fascinating and it feels worthy of study because of that.
But that's also that kind of music, I think, has more longevity because there are songs
Mhm.
that just, they catch your ear the first time, but they also burn out very quickly. And then
Yeah.
there are songs or albums that you have to listen to a few times before you get it.
Yeah.
And at least for me, those are the ones that stick with me for years. We have
Yeah.
to invest a little bit of time in the beginning. In our last episode, we talked about Tom Waits. A lot of
Exactly.
his music is absolutely that. You got to listen to it a few times before you get it. I get a feeling like Hamilton is in that category where you may not need to study like for a couple of weeks leading up to the musical, like some people would do.
Don't know what you're talking about. Never met that person. That sounds like a weird person. Why would they do that?
Oh, what a
Ugh,
weirdo!
weird.
Yeah, but of
Um,
course we like weirdos around here, so that's good.
so an example of like the more intricate ways that the writing is constructed is when Hamilton meets his crew for the first time. When they're introduced, they do like a little verse each, and the rhyme schemes they're using are really simple. It's a very slow rap, it's very rhythmical. It gives me the feeling of early 90s hip hop. But then when Hamilton breaks in and does his solo, it's dense. It's fast. It's full of slant rhymes and internal rhymes. The rhyme scheme becomes more complicated now. So even if you do not have any awareness of this, it doesn't matter because it sounds so different. You realize that the way Hamilton is expressing himself is different. So even if you don't understand that, you can still hear it in the music.
Brah, brah, I am Hercules Mulligan, up in it, loving it. Yes, I heard your mother said, come again.
Yeah, like this I can get behind. This is
Yeah,
like you're saying, classic old school hip hop.
exactly.
The guy banging out the beat on the table.
Yes.
Oh, that was great.
We're going a little bit later in the scene, and this is what Hamilton's response is to these guys.
I'ma get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but dag, I'm amazed and astonished. The problem is I got a lot of brains, but no polish. I gotta holler just to be heard with every word I drop.
Oh, that's great. That's great too. It's very different.
Yes, and so you could hear the difference, yeah?
American Revolutionary history
Mhm.
and hip hop seems like a weird combination at first, but there was something in this. There's the attitude
Yeah.
that worked really well. Like, hip hop is about standing up and saying, "Here I am amazing, I'm awesome." And he's doing it was very dramatic as well. He's doing the
Yes.
same thing here, right?
The narrative of Hamilton coming from nothing, he was an orphaned immigrant and he became the treasury secretary, right? He's going from nothing to making a name for himself, becoming a success. That immigrant, you can make it here in America. That narrative is a very hip hop narrative. And
Yeah.
so that's how those two things kind of fit together. And honestly, only Manuel's brain. No one else's brain would have thought of that.
It's still hilarious that he thought. I was like, somebody must have thought of this. Some ideas seem so obvious to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Had he written hip hop before? What had he written before?
Yes. He already wrote a musical called Into the Heights. He has some
Mhm.
other writing credits under his belt. The first time I actually heard his work was on This American Life, which is another podcast hosted by Ira Glass. They hired Lin-Manuel to come in and write a one-act musical called 21 Chump Street, based off of a true story that they did, a reporting story about a young kid who got arrested for selling drugs to a police officer. But he had a huge crush on the police officer and he was like smitten about her. And that's why he did it. Like he was a valedictorian, good kid. He wasn't in any trouble, but he knew a cousin who knew a cousin who knew a cousin who sold him the drug so he could give it to this girl. And he made a 14-minute Broadway musical. It's really good. And it actually has one of the actors who is in Hamilton stars in the musical as the young kid. I'll put that in the show notes so you can check it out. So he has got some writing credits to him. Like, this is
Okay,
not the first time he's written musicals or hip hop musicals. It does kind of make sense that this would be the avenue that he would go down.
great.
Speaking of the music, we have the music of the musical, which also is truly wonderful in the use of motif. Do you know what a motif is? Can you explain what a motif is to our audience?
I could, but I think you should do it, Yocht. I have no idea what it is.
Cool. Um, a motif is a reoccurring thing in art. So it can be a sound, it can be like in film, it's often called a leitmotif. So if I
Mhm.
go ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. What am I referencing?
Jaws. Obviously,
Hey!
yeah.
Easy, right?
Yeah,
A classic motif. Like the second you go ba-dum, everyone's like, it's Jaws though, right? But it's
yeah.
Jaws? So that's what a motif is, a reoccurring thing. And it's used to tell the story, it's used to drive the narrative forward. And the use of motif in Hamilton is fantastically done. Each concept or idea has a specific motif attached to it, and they evolve over time as the story develops in the musical. The most obvious one that I'm sure that you've heard is this one. That noise basically is shut the fuck up. We're going to tell you some exposition now, so get your butts ready. That's what that noise means. And you
Yeah.
hear it a lot throughout the musical, and every time it happens, someone's gonna come on stage and tell us what's happening, right? Every time you hear that bum, ba-da-da-dum, bum, you're like, aha, story time. Cool. And that's like the most simplistic one. You have ones associated with this concept of waiting for it. You have one for the 10 duel commandment, which is all about how you duel. And every character who dies via duel sings it at some point in the show in some way or another.
Right,
They might not sing it
right.
in the same language it was sung originally. They may not sing it with the same instrumentation, but it's the same song. And then they all end up dying by duel, and you're like, holy shit, the music told me he was gonna die by duel before he died by duel. This is incredible. Like it's really exciting to see how the motifs tell you the story. If you just listen to the music alone, you can probably figure out who's gonna die, how they're gonna die, and like when they're likely to die soon.
Can I bring this back to Dune? So apparently, I had never in my 50 readings of the book, I did not pick up on this, but apparently Frank Herbert did something like that with the color yellow.
Mm.
So whenever yellow is referenced in the book, it means somebody's going to die. He talks about in interviews saying people are not going to notice consciously,
Mm.
but subconsciously they're going to pick up on it, and it's going to
Yeah.
create a sense of dread and make the experience of the book a little deeper and a little
Yeah.
richer. I thought that was a
That's cool.
sounds like there's a similar thing going
It's a
on here.
motif. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's some depth to this. I like it.
Oh, there's so much. One of my favorite motifs in the show is this idea of waiting for it. There's two different characters who play with this idea of waiting for it. One character is waiting for something to happen. He's sitting back, he's watching. The other character is not waiting for things. He's like, we might die. We need to act. We need to do things. And he doesn't wait. And then they switch halfway through the musical. And that switch is indicated by who sings which motif. One person's just like,
Ah,
wait for it. And the other one's like, no, fuck that. And that moment, that switch is such a huge character development that's so simply told by just being like, that guy sings this thing, and this guy now sings this thing. Done. But it's so impactful because they've used that consistently throughout the whole musical for one character. And to have that switch, it's just like spine tingling, goosebumps, magical moment of music.
cool.
I'm going to link an amazing video essay in the show notes because I love an expert talking about something with enthusiasm. And I am not a music expert. But there's a really good explainer video looking into more detail, it's talking about what I've mentioned, but with better terminology and understanding and awareness of music about how the musical uses motif to tell story. So I highly recommend it. It's 20 minutes long, but it doesn't feel 20 minutes long.
That's nothing these days on YouTube.
Exactly. I know you're fine. You watch ContraPoints.
If Age Bomber Guy just uploaded a video on the computer game Deus Ex Human Revolution,
Uh-huh.
that's 3.5 hours long.
Producing movie length video essays is crazy. There is a moment at the end of the first act where everyone just sings their motif just to
Mhm.
like really establish this girl is helpless. This girl wants to be satisfied. This person is waiting for things. This person is not going to throw away their shot. And they just like stand on boxes and scream their motivation all together. And it all sounds beautiful and it's all fitting the music. And you're just like, Cool, I understand everybody now. Thanks. It's
Great.
very explicit. I love musical moments where they just assume the audience is a dumbass and they're like, "Hello, here is my motivation. I will now scream it at you for 12 minutes."
Is that kind of like what he did with We Don't Talk About Bruno, where different family members have their own variation of the song, and then at the end of the song, they all sing it at the same time? But because of the way they're all written, they meld beautifully
A
instead of
tapestry.
clashing. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, the music, the lyrics, they're phenomenal, they're amazing, they're complex. There is so much meaning in every little thing of this musical, which makes it worthy of repeat viewings, in my opinion.
Got it. So if one hypothetically were to watch it, it's on Disney Plus, right, or
It
something?
is on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Subtitles might be a good idea, right?
Subtitles are a great idea. I remember when I watched it with my friends in Spain, we did 2 viewings. The first
Mhm.
viewing was the "you're allowed to pause whenever you want" viewing, where we had the option for anybody, because my Spanish friends, English was their second language, where they could hit pause at any point and ask a question, and
Mhm.
no one was allowed to get mad. And that was great for me because I love talking about this musical, can you tell? And so we had that viewing, and then we watched it again, and that was the no pause. And that way, everyone could enjoy the dancing, the costumes, the music, and everything without having to worry about understanding it.
Either put on subtitles or invite you along to a viewing and then have you to explain everything.
I would legit enjoy that for anybody. You wanna call me on Zoom? I am here for that. I would have a great fucking time.
Hamilton consultant.
Oh my god, if that could be my job, that'd be amazing.
You will Hamel-splain everything.
I love it. I love it. Number 2, the reason why this musical is special and fascinating to me is the casting. You will notice that the founding fathers in this particular musical do not look like the actual founding fathers. I have a statement from Mr. Lin-Manuel here. He told this to the New York Times.
This is a story about America then, told by America now, and we want to eliminate any distance. Our story should look the way our country looks. Then we found the best people to embody these parts. I think it's a very powerful statement without having to be a statement.
Mhm.
Too cool.
Bar the ensemble and one role, the entire cast is POC. So the one role, the one person on stage who is a singing part, who is allowed to be white, is the king. King George is traditionally
Yeah, King
played
of
by a white
England,
person. Yes.
their enemy.
Yes. His role is generally played by a white man, but aside from that, they're all people of color. It's just a really great opportunity for a lot of people of color to get their fucking foot in the door in a Broadway tradition that doesn't necessarily write a lot of parts for people of color.
No. What a great idea. And what a way to make it even more culturally relevant.
Yes.
Yeah, because there is a tendency to whitewash history. My favorite example, I can't remember if we talked about this before, but ancient Greek statues
Oh, they used to be colorful, right?
were not white. Exactly, they used to be
Yeah.
every color. When museums display some statues with the original colors, they get hate mail from people
Yeah.
saying that's not how that's supposed to look. They are supposed to be white.
Yeah.
Of course, they weren't.
Also for me, as someone who is biracial, white, Asian, the fact that Philippa Sue is one of the leading cast members, she plays Eliza. She also is Chinese American. So it's really cool for me to see someone who looks like me on the screen. I really like her because of that. It's so rare for me to see people who are biracial in the same way that I'm biracial, and it's
Yeah.
just very exciting. I also have this other quote from a Medium article by Brian Rowe.
The musical promotes multiculturalism by telling a story of a white immigrant through the lens of a Puerto Rican artist, incorporating the kind of hip hop lyrics typically written by people of color. Yeah, makes perfect sense.
This idea that you talked about being, like, multicultural and having different things being brought in and not whitewashing things. I think that I wasn't sure if I was gonna use that quote, but then what you said, I was like, "This relates to what Alex just said."
King George, is he the bad guy? Is he like evil, scheming? What's he like in the show?
Honestly, he's fabulous. He's only on stage for, like, 14 minutes, and he steals the show most times. He's not evil and scheming, more just like a pompous asshole, and he's very fabulously portrayed. There's this really iconic way he walks on stage. When Jonathan Groff first originated the role on Broadway, he walked on stage in a very specific way because the crown was really, really heavy and slightly out of balance. So he really like catwalks on the stage with this really intense like crossing of the legs, and you can see it in the recording. And the reason he did that is because he was really scared his crown was going to fall off. And apparently, when Beyonce went to see the show, she picked up on that. She asked him, like, that walk, what is with that? I'm stealing that walk. And very interestingly, he had actually moved on from the show when they came back to record it because they recorded the show a couple years after it opened on Broadway. Somebody else was playing King George, but he kicked that person off so he could reprise the role for the filming. And they had changed the crown. They had like edited the design, and he said it wasn't heavy anymore, and he didn't know how to walk.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
The rest of the cast are absolutely phenomenal. The guy who plays Aaron Burr, Leslie Odom Jr., has the most beautiful voice, and I think he's such a fantastic singer. There's also like a really lovely sense of camaraderie. You can feel it between the original Broadway cast. And like as far as I understand, there are two couples that came out of the show because they all performed together on Broadway and had this really close-knit feeling. So there's lots of camaraderie, and the feeling between the cast members is a one of joy and like playfulness. And even when I saw it without the original Broadway cast, with the cast in London, there's a feeling of everyone's on stage is really fucking excited to be there. There's an
Wow.
energy that brings that you don't necessarily see, and that just like that energy, that electricity, you can feel it, and that enthusiasm, maybe you call it.
I love how you brought it home there. That was amazing. We do like that around here, right? When people have fun making the stuff that we enjoy, like The Good
Yes,
Place, our favorite TV show,
exactly.
where people were clearly having the time of their life making it.
Yeah.
I enjoy things a little less if it seems like the people making it had a shit time.
So, my final reason why I think Hamilton is so fascinating, is so interesting, is because how it's affected our understanding of history. So, I'm going to present to you a mystery, and I would like you to solve it. You have to
Hmm.
solve a 200-year-old mystery now. Alex, this is your job.
I'm on it.
Excellent. One of the major plot points in the story of Hamilton is that he is accused of being corrupt and using his knowledge as a treasury secretary for his own personal financial gain. However, in the narrative of the show, it's not the case. In reality, he was being blackmailed. He was having an affair with this woman, Mariah Reynolds, and her husband found out. And so he blackmails Hamilton. He's like, you could keep sleeping with my wife, but you have to pay me. You have to pay me on
Hmm.
the regular basis, right? So when Hamilton's political adversaries accuse him of committing treason, of being corrupt, he's like, haha, you guys got it wrong. These payments aren't corruption. This is me being blackmailed. I'm being blackmailed by this guy because I'm sleeping with his wife. That's all it is. I'm bad, but I'm not that bad. And Hamilton being Hamilton, he publishes a tell-all essay with all the sordid details, including snippets of love letters between him and Miss Mariah Reynolds, called the Reynolds Pamphlet. And it almost destroys his marriage, but it explains away the payments. And it says there are payments to Mr. James Reynolds. I'm paying this man. I'm not making secret investments or manipulating the market. I am just a guy being blackmailed. He thought it better to admit to the affair publicly than be accused of corruption.
Hmm.
This is a story as told in the musical Hamilton. However, I would like to point out an alternative reality for you. So this is story one. Story two. Outside of the Reynolds pamphlet, there is no evidence that the affair actually occurred. Key figures like Miss
Ooh.
Mariah Reynolds herself said it was a cover-up for a financial scandal.
Hmm.
The letters that Hamilton quotes as evidence of the affair between him and Mariah were never produced. They were copied from the letters into the Reynolds pamphlet, but the actual letters themselves, never produced. He says he gave them to a friend for safekeeping. When journalists asked said friend, "Where are these letters?" the friend was like, "What letters? I've never seen these letters before. I don't know what you're talking about." Newspapers at the time pointed out that Mariah's letters correctly spell very long, complex words, and yet sometimes misspells simple words in a way that makes no phonetic sense. She is a lower class. She's not educated, so it makes sense that she does some spelling errors. But these are very weird spelling errors. Julian P. Boyd, who was Thomas Jefferson's biographer, said the letters could resemble potentially what an educated man believed an educated woman might write. A Hamilton biographer also pointed out that the letters look very similar to the letters between Alexander Hamilton and his wife Eliza.
Ooh.
Also, when this all came out, Eliza burned all of her love letters between her and Hamilton. Now, did she do this because, as the musical said, she was heartbroken? She was devastated that the man that she was devoted to was sleeping with somebody else. And she says, "You don't deserve me. You don't deserve my love. I'm burning the letters. I'm burning every letter you sent me, every letter I sent you, because fuck you."
Mm-hmm.
Or did she burn the evidence showing that Hamilton just took lines from their letters to conduct this affair? This is the mystery, Alex. Did Hamilton commit fraud or adultery? What do you think?
I mean, why not both? We return to a theme of the podcast. Why not both? It sounds really fishy. It really does.
Doesn't it? Doesn't it?
Yeah. How much money are we talking about?
I think it was like the blackmail receipts was like $1,000, which is like $2,500 at the time. I think those are the
Yeah.
numbers that are in my head. I read this article ages ago, so I don't know how true it is. So this is already fascinating. There's a mystery here. There's two narratives. Which is true? Who the fuck knows?
Mm-hmm.
But what's even better is knowing that a major theme of this musical is who tells your story. The characters within the musical are really aware that history has its eyes on them. And there's this whole thing about who lives, who dies, who tells your story. Lin-Manuel Miranda is the one who's telling your story. He decided which story to tell. He told a story that's more dramatic and more interesting in terms of like love affairs. But now, that's the most popular version of the story. That's
Ooh.
the story that's been immortalized. When I first started researching Hamilton back in 2019, I found multiple articles talking about this disparity in narratives. To prepare for this podcast, I tried to find those articles and it took me fucking ages and I couldn't find them because all you find now are stuff about the Reynolds pamphlets being true. Between
Ah.
2019 and 2022, the narrative on the internet has changed in favor of the narrative that Hamilton presented, which is so cool. I think it's so cool.
Wow. One of the themes of the musical, history changes based on who tells the stories,
Yes.
is now coming true. That's
So
pretty
cool.
cool. That is pretty cool.
So cool.
What do you think? You've obviously studied this way more than I have. What do you think really happened?
Oh, I think he committed fraud. I think
Right.
he's guilty of treason because there's no other evidence. The only thing we have to go on is what he said. Also, the reason it all came out in the actual history, not in Hamilton. James Reynolds, he got in trouble with the law and got arrested. And he was like, "I'm taking payments from Hamilton. If I tell you what those payments are about, if I clue you in, you'll go easy on me," right? Like he took a plea deal. So that's how it all came out.
Mhm.
Then Hamilton's response to like this accusation is be like, "I was sleeping with his wife. That's what I was doing."
Yeah. I still like to think it was both.
I mean, totally could have been.
Yeah. There was just last week I read a story about the KGB blackmailing the Indonesian president. Have you heard about that?
No.
So this is a while back, but apparently they entrapped the Indonesian president Ahmed Sukarno. They hired two beautiful Russian women to pretend to be stewardesses, flight attendants, and then they go to a hotel room and they have sex with him and they film it, and they send the film to the Indonesian president saying, do what we're saying or else.
Yeah.
And his reply was, "I want to thank you for the best night of my life. Could you please send additional copies of the film that I can share with my friends?"
That's a fantastic response to like some classic KGB bullshit.
Yes,
Oh,
they had the wrong man on that one. That
yeah.
was hilarious. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Would it change your opinion of Alexander Hamilton if he had been guilty of fraud?
No, to be fair, my opinion of Hamilton is not particularly high with either narrative.
Okay, yeah.
They do address the slavery issue lightly in the musical, very
Hmm.
lightly. They don't actually go into any detail on it. But this is a man who bought slaves for his father-in-law. So
Right.
my opinion of him is pretty fucking low.
Okay,
Uh
got it. Next to that,
Yeah, I'm like, "You slept with a
yeah,
woman, you committed fraud." What? You bought people? You
yeah.
thought people were property. Okay. An hour later, I am finally done talking about Hamilton, unless you have any questions.
I think it sounds awesome. One thing is that it became a commercial success as a
Mm,
musical. It's
it
now
did.
playing all over the world, but it also became a cultural phenomenon
Yeah.
in a way that I don't think any other musicals have
No,
achieved like this level of cultural significance.
maybe Cats in the 90s. Cats was absolutely huge in the 90s. I don't think it had as big of an impact on culture,
No.
but it was the blockbuster dance musical that kind of broke the records of the 90s. No musical has had as much cultural impact as Hamilton, I think. So, Alex, what did you think of the musical Hamilton and my hour-long rant?
I am definitely gonna go watch it. We may do like a simultaneous have you on a Zoom call to explain stuff to us while we do it, but I'm definitely gonna watch it. And it sounds like I'll have to watch it like a couple of times. I need to see it now. I definitely want to understand what all the fuss is about. I think it sounds really interesting. And if nothing else, it's not like any other musical out there.
No.
It has some things going for it. The POCs playing the characters, like the hip hop style instead of the more traditional musical style. I'm absolutely watching it, and then I'll let you know how it goes. And if those songs get stuck in my head in the same way that the Encanto songs did, we're gonna have beef. We're gonna have. I'm gonna complain because yeah,
Because I'm bringing excellent music into your life?
that then refuses to leave ever.
I will say, at
Oh
least there's
man.
more songs in Hamilton, so you'll have a bigger variety stuck in your head, maybe?
Got it. Got it. Got it. And at least, if nothing else, more words. Oh, Katie. So, besides watching it on Disney Plus or wherever you can find it, where should a person go to learn more about Hamilton the musical?
Obviously, just go watch it. You can also check out in the show notes, I have that 538 article, which analyzes the word count and goes into how long it would be if it was sung at a normal pace, which is hilarious. I'll pop in that video essay I mentioned talking about the motifs of the musical and all of the clips that I showed in case you don't have access to Disney Plus. If you have questions, I am so happy to. This is not just for you, this is for everybody. What do you think about Hamilton? Did you have any questions about the show? If you have any like narrative questions, historical questions, feel free to ask me. I love talking about Hamilton. Can you tell? If I left something awesome out about it, how? Please tell me what I missed. I need to know that information. Go to our website or our Instagram at Electric Enthusiasm and let me know.
Beautiful. This episode's Moment of Meta, I prepared a really short one because I had a feeling the actual topic might go on for a while.
You know me very well now, Alex, and I love that.
Yeah, I have a tip and a challenge. An enthusiasm tip. In our last Moment of Meta, you suggested, expanding your enthusiasm. If you like this, maybe you would also like this other thing that's close to it. But you can also branch into completely new fields. So here's the tip. Go out and buy a magazine about something that you normally have absolutely zero interest in. There are magazines about everything and
Mhm.
anything you can imagine, right? Buy a magazine about gardening, or buy a copy of Guns and Ammo, or buy a copy of, Yachting magazine or whatever, like something that you know absolutely nothing about, and then dive into that topic.
Yeah,
Those magazines are written for people who are enthusiastic about this. They're written by people who love these topics.
yeah.
So I am willing to bet you that whatever magazine you pick, there will be something in there that fascinates you. I've done this a
Mhm.
few times. I once bought an issue of a magazine about mountain climbing, mountaineering. It was
Sure.
fascinating. The articles on the gear, the ongoing expeditions,
Yeah.
the people and their philosophies around climbing was absolutely fascinating. One thing I noticed is that so many of these articles referenced people who had just died. I don't think you get that with a gardening magazine, or I
No,
don't
I
hope
don't
so.
think
But yeah,
so.
there will be casual mentions. This approach reminds us of this climber who, of course, died last year on Mount Everest or whatever. There was a lot of that. That's my tip and my
Mhm.
challenge. I would challenge the two of
Mm.
us before we record the next episode. Find a magazine about something we have absolutely no interest in, otherwise, no knowledge of. Read that
Okay.
magazine and then report back what we found out. And I would
Yeah.
challenge all of our listeners to do the same. Go find a magazine about something that is completely random to you and see if there isn't something there that's actually cool, interesting, and can spark a little bit of enthusiasm.
Yeah, I'm down. I will buy a magazine before next week. Yes. Awesome.
And that was our moment of meta.
Short and sweet.
Exactly.
So, Alex, you mentioned that there is a roundup from a previous episode you'd like to talk about.
Yes. Apparently, we have supernatural powers.
I knew it. It was those vaccines, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So on February 15th, we recorded our Bioshock episode about the
Yes.
amazing computer game Bioshock and how good it is. On February 16th, Netflix announced that they're making a Bioshock movie.
Way! Alex, your dreams are. You know what's really annoying? Like, you called
Mhm.
out Netflix for Modesty Blaze and they didn't hear you. But they heard
Yeah,
you for Bioshock? Come on, Netflix.
before we
Come
even
on.
published the episode. They must have hacked our computers or something. So apparently we have psychic powers and we can influence Netflix.
Amazing. Alex, if someone enjoyed this episode, what episodes could we recommend for them? I am unsure.
I would like to send them back to our previous episode on Tom Waits,
Hmm.
which is also music, obviously, also something that requires a little bit of effort to get into. So that's where I would send people.
Yeah. By the time this podcast episode will come out, the Bioshock one might need a refresher, might need a little something something. We hope you enjoyed sharing some of our enthusiasm in this episode. Please visit our website at electricenthusiasm.com or find us on Instagram at electricenthusiasm to discover more episodes or leave a comment.
And now, dear listener, make sure you don't throw away your shot.
Yee!